President Benigno Aquino III's trip to Davos, Switzerland and for the World Economic Forum highlighted the economic gains of the country under his leadership. In so short a time, the Philippines is emerging as an economic miracle, and the boom and bust cycle of growth may be a thing of the past due to the strong fundamentals. His roundtable discussions with top guns of business all over the world has produced a positive response to consider investing in the Philippines. And joining us tonight is Mr. Guillermo Bill Luz, co-chairperson of the National Competitiveness Council of the Philippines. He was in the President's delegation in Davos, Switzerland. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, how would you sum up the President's trip to Davos, Switzerland? What was the reception of world leaders, top business leaders, and media to the gains of the Philippines under his leadership?
I think it was a very warm reception. Great reception to the way the Philippines has been performing and the President's leadership. See it in the way that he was, greeted, and the way the CEO roundtable in particular went in Davos. We had about 36, 37 executives from 11 different countries, different corporations, all at the CEO and top, very senior level of the companies, and many of them, asking a lot of questions, but coming away very happy with the way the President answered the questions very frankly and very straight.
So the President spoke of his reform agenda, especially the fight against corruption. Are they convinced that this reform agenda will continue, since this has been a major concern in the past?
Well, they like the direction we're moving in. They realize it's a tough battle for all countries, and so there was a special session called Partnership Against Corruption Initiative, or PACI. And at that special session, the President was the first to speak, and the very few leaders are invited to speak at that session. I think only 4 or 5. Not all of them are leaders of their particular country. The fact that he was selected shows that they're happy with the direction we've been moving in terms of the anti-corruption and good governance battle. It's fairly well attended, and I thought it was received quite well.
So with regards to the President's roundtable discussions with top business leaders, how many were in the discussions, and is there now greater interest in the Philippines from these business leaders to consider investing in the Philippines?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interest. I mean, I was part of the group that helped organize the CEO roundtable, and we thought, because of the limitations to our functioning space, we didn't want to make it too tight. We targeted getting 25 CEOs to confirm, and we got more than that, actually. We were into the high 30s, about 36 or 37 eventually confirmed, so we decided we'll try to accommodate it all, since the interest was so high. So we just had to make special arrangements at the Credit Suisse facility to make sure that we all fit. They all showed up. In fact, many of them showed up very, very early for the session. And as I said, they represent, large companies, very diverse set of companies. And some of them already in the Philippines, some of them not knowing too much about the Philippines, but obviously very interested, from, I think, 11 countries represented as well. So I thought the interest was high. And during the discussion, question and answer period, discussion period, very lively.
Sir, right now, is there a particular list of those businesses that are already willing to invest here in the Philippines?
Well,
from those discussions.
Some of the companies, who we talked to at that roundtable are already invested in the Philippines. Companies like Coca-Cola and Ernst & Young, Diageo, FEMSA, Huawei, these are Lafarge. These are companies that are already in operation in the Philippines. Mitsubishi, Nestle, Novartis.
How about those that are not yet in business here in the Philippines? How do they see it right now with what is happening here in the Philippines with regards to investments?
One of the things I saw just in the body language of people around the table, one is the questions are coming in quickly. Second, everybody pulled out notepads to take, a lot of notes as the President answered questions. And at the end, some people who had never been to the Philippines or didn't know much about the Philippines said, you know what, judging from the way the current investors spoke about their success in the Philippines, that they would be sending, they'd be interested in sending teams to come in and have a look at what the Philippines is like. And I think what caught their attention was the high regard for the ICT skills and engineering skills of many Filipino workers who are working on multinational projects in the Philippines with companies there already. So these companies, operating in the Philippines said, we'd like to turn the Philippines into our global hub for training and for ICT and for engineering, because there's so much talent there. And I think that caught the attention of the other tech companies who said, we better take a look at what's going on there.
So during these discussions, were there any concerns that came out that they have expressed which should be given attention by the President?
Oh, of course. I mean, it's a very frank exchange, and the President was very direct with his answers. There was, one of the first things brought up was that the importance of education and how to continuously improve education. That was answered not only through our K-12 program, but how to build up more vocational programs and tertiary level education programs, because all the companies around the table realized that education really is a key driver of competitiveness and economic growth. But, there was a lot of interest in how to keep the Philippines competitive in terms of regulatory streamlining and bureaucratic streamlining. There was talk of, questions about power access and power cost, about infrastructure. So, a lot of these things, the problem areas are also opportunity areas for investors, particularly, I think, in infrastructure. And we had quite a number of infrastructure companies or construction materials companies interested, because they know there's a lot to do. We need a lot of infrastructure. Obviously, there's going to be opportunity for these guys.
So what struck out in terms of doing business here in the Philippines? Were there any concerns that came out?
Well, one is really the need for bureaucratic streamlining. They want to be able to enter the Philippines and start up businesses, not only for themselves, but they realize that their supplier base, their SME base that comes in needs to be able to establish business and move quickly. So a lot of that has streamlining of processes and in transactions with the government. So that's important. The other one is how to maintain and keep growing the skill level of people and the numbers of skilled personnel, again, particularly in ICT. So there was some question about brain drain, but some questions, we did not expect. I certainly did not expect. One person asked, what's your situation like with social housing? Are you addressing the needs of the poor in housing? And of course, the response has been that they're taking care of housing, particularly first of priority for government employees and the military. So that they will increase their take-home pay as they decrease their housing rental costs and housing mortgage costs. So, the interest and the questions come from a wide range. It's not only business, but obviously businessmen today are concerned about what's happening on the social front as well.
So on a personal note, after meeting the President, what did your peers from other countries say about President Aquino?
Well, the comments ranged from they found him very authentic and genuine with his answers. He was very sincere in his. He was there with the cabinet. They had the opportunity to meet the cabinet. They liked the president, the way he worked with the team. No matter a wider range of questions were asked, from education to housing to power to free trade agreements to governance. I mean. He was able to answer very honestly. He said where we had the challenges that remained. So they kind of like that sort of honest, candid approach to the answer. So they came away with a very positive impression, I would say. And I mean, they told many of the people, and many didn't leave the room right away. Even after the president left, they stayed a while to chat. We had a few private meetings with the minister. So I would say it really piqued their interest and opened their eyes to what's happening here.
So in a final word from you, sir, do you expect the Philippines to improve its rankings in competitiveness for 2013?
Well, we're certainly working very hard at it. Myself, together with my team, are looking not only at the World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index report, but we're also looking at the IFC Ease of Doing rankings. So we've got special teams, special task forces working on each indicator, making sure the data is correct, but also making sure that we're putting in the improvements, because we have analyzed where we need to make the improvements. We're confident that if we keep working very hard, we should be able to move up the rankings again this year. We've done it 2 years in a row, and that's one of the reasons the president was invited to Davos. they announced, introduced him as, in fact, the country with the biggest jump in 2 years.
Okay, on that note, sir, thank you very much for joining us tonight on News Live. That was Mr. Bill Luz, Chairperson of the National Competitiveness Council.
Thank you.